Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And this is a quick intro to a clip I would like to share with you from an interview that I did with Nuugame Productions. Nuugame Productions is a producer and sound engineer extraordinaire. Okay, so he mixes and masters sound, plus he's also a producer, a maker of beats, what have you. And what I would like to emphasize from this clip, what this clip teaches us, is how to monetize our creative endeavors. How to monetize our creative endeavors. And this applies to other endeavors as well, but creative endeavors are notoriously difficult to monetize. And now the three things I would like to emphasize from this clip can be encapsulated with the phrase full spectrum dominance. Full spectrum dominance. Number one, the full spectrum of tasks, from the simplest to the most difficult. You want to have competency in that full spectrum in whatever your endeavor is. So in your case in point, don't just be a beat maker, be a producer and a sound engineer. Sound engineering entails mixing and mastering, okay? Mixing and mastering has a high level of demand, but not a lot of supply. A high level of demand, but not a lot of supply, because it is difficult. So you want to do the things that are hard to do. Number two, you want to cover the full spectrum of genres. You want to learn how to make music for movies. You want to learn not just, maybe you're a hip hop head, but not just hip hop music. Make trap music, dancehall music, reggae music, dubstep music, country music. Learn it all. There will be cross-pollination in terms of your competency, okay? So learning how to master and mix reggae music, for example, may help with your competency in hip-hop. Also, you never quite know, since we're talking about monetization, you never quite know where you're gonna get the big clients from. And all money is good money when it comes to monetizing your creative endeavors, okay? So that's number two. Now, number three has to do with marketing. So basically, number three has to do with marketing. Now you want to dominate the full spectrum when it comes to all the means and methods of marketing yourself. Basically meaning all the media, okay? Somebody asks you, what is your favorite social media outlet? Tell that person, say, hey, somebody, it's the one that you're on. Whichever one you're on, that's my favorite one, okay? You want to be on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of them. You want to put all of your content in all these different spaces, and you want to tailor your content to the idiosyncrasies and the peculiarities of these different media outlets, okay? For these different social media outlets. So again, three things. Number one, the full spectrum of difficulty. Okay, if you're a drafter, you don't just want to do drafting, you want to learn all the intricacies of 3D BIM modeling and learn the latest tools and software involved with scanning and 3D imaging. So you want to be at the cutting edge of know-how when it comes to the tools and the skills as well. So the full range of difficulty, because on the high end of difficulty is where you have low supply, okay, but high demand for the skills, and that's where you make the most green. So basically, you're going to eat three times. You're going to eat from, in the case in point, production. You're going to also eat from mixing and mastering. Now, number two, just to reiterate before we play the clip, number two is you don't want to limit yourself in terms of genres. You want to do all different kinds of things. Number three, you want to put yourself out there, basically. Expand the top of your funnel. Go to the churches. Go to the schools. Go to the charity events, okay? And on the media landscape, the social media landscape, you want to be in all the websites: TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Take your content and put it all out there, and you would maximize the chances, okay? You will maximize your chances for success. Thank you very much, and enjoy the video. Money with this, okay? Is there any kind of advice? You talked about the last piece of advice which you just gave, which is about the tools that you use, how important they are. I think it's very, very important, which is you want to make sure that you squeeze every bit of juice out of your logic, I mean, sorry, out of GarageBand and out
Right.
of your current MIDI controller before you
Right.
upgrade. Don't just be like, oh well, I saw this thing on Kanye's studio. Now I'm gonna go work the second shift so I can go buy that thing. But still, I haven't squeezed all the juice out of the basics that I have, right?
Right.
So any similar kind of advice when it comes to people who are trying to monetize this thing, both in terms of either time, the attitude, any kind of things they need to do when it comes to registering themselves, copywriting? The floor is yours regarding the whole business aspects of it.
Okay, well, the business aspect is where things start to get a little complicated, and I say complicated because being a business owner at age 23, and learning how to make websites, I cut a lot of costs and all of that out of it. So I have my own personal website, which I did myself. So getting a website just means that you're sending a statement out there. I have a website, because your website could look like $1 million. That's the beautiful thing about websites. It can look like any way you want. Now, let me pause that thought for a second. The reason why clients would walk in my studio and want to pay me the big bucks, when they see the desk, when they see the multiple monitors, they see the drum pads on the table, it means that I'm serious. It means you're serious, right? No one's going to give you a lot of money if they just saw a computer and a keyboard, right? However, if you know how to do what you need to do, and so I'll give you an example. I've had people send me stems overseas. What I mean by stems is they've recorded the song or the music in another country or continent, and they send it to me as individual files. They send it over to me. I mix it over here. I master it over here. They pay me some money, and I send it back over there, and vice versa. So sometimes the stems come from here and they go over there.
Mm,
The point is, they'll pay you to do the work if you can do it, right? And mixing and mastering is another part of music, because that's where music becomes a real business. Because when you mix and master, again, I don't think this platform was for mixing and mastering, but I'm also a mix and mastering engineer. That's why, for the money aspect of it, you get into producing. Because think about it, right now, you can go to Google and just say, I want to buy a beat. You'll find tons of producers selling beats. So the art of producing has become, watered. There's just producers everywhere, and some of them are really beat makers. But we talk about that later. But so getting your hands on a beat is no longer difficult. They're everywhere. In fact, some are given to you free if they put their tags on it. So what you'll find most producers learn eventually is how to mix and master. And mixing is really the art of taking what you've already produced and balancing the sound. So if you make a kick, not making the kick so hard, and if you play the piano, not reducing the volume of the piano, panning things around so it sounds nice and beautiful in the stereo space. And then mastering is really bringing the levels and all the harmonics of the song up to a volume that matches what's already out there. So producers eventually become sound engineers, because that's where there's money. There's always money in mixing and mastering. I've
mm,
had artists that have no business singing, but they're willing to pay me to mix and master. And my job is just to mix and master it, whether your album goes platinum. Because think about it, every album that you've heard in your lifetime, or song that's been released by a major label, they paid a bunch of producers, they paid a bunch of sound engineers and all the PRs and everything, whether the album did good or not. So what you learn over time, and that's where you start to need the equipment. That's where you start to need the extra stuff, because to really get a lot of money as a producer, you want to be able to mix and master. So if you have an artist that comes up to you and they say, hey, I like the way you make music, right? I want you to produce this record for me. You sit down with them and you come up with a good record and it sounds good. And when you're done doing it, you're like, well, I can mix it and master it for you. That's going to be an extra $500-$600. So you went from producing the beat for maybe $400 to
mm,
mixing and mastering it for another 600. And all of a sudden, off of that one client, you've made $1,000. Now, of course, I'm just using random figures. It could be more or less, right? But you could be a producer and you get paid as a producer, and then they take the work they've done with you as a producer and go find a sound engineer to mix and master it.
mm.
So when you put that in your arsenal, then you eat three times. You eat from producing, you eat from mixing, and you eat from mastering.
Ah, I see. Okay, so now you're talking about this kind of, because the question was business, and I gave you free reign. Now you're talking about, like, we've talked about certain skills and where the money is at. You're saying
Right,
there's a lot of demand for mixing and mastering, right? There,
right.
because regardless of what's going on, it needs to be mixed and mastered regardless.
That's
But there,
correct.
all kinds of beats out there. So there's a huge supply of beats. You can go on Google and just ask for beats. There's all kinds of beats out there, but not everybody can mix and master. But if you
Right.
know how to make beats and you can mix and you can master, you're eating three times. Okay, so how do you set yourself up? Because you mentioned something that also has to do with marketing or
Right.
self presentation. You talked about the fact that when they get into your studio, they see that you're serious because you got that $2,500 desk and you got thousands of dollars worth of everything else. That means that you're serious now. But how do you get them into the studio to begin with? And I know that this is perhaps this is more general business marketing type of question, but again, people got to eat, people got to make money with this stuff. And if you put in an initial investment of $1,500 for that Macintosh and that microphone and the MIDI controller,
Right.
how do you start to put yourself out there to be known in order to get them into your studio in the first place?
Okay. So that's where things get interesting. You first have to make a lot of music. That's you want to make a lot of music because the artist that chooses to work with you is never gonna, I shouldn't say never. You want to be able to work with any kind of artist. So
Mm,
you know, especially when you're starting off, you don't want, oh no, I don't do country. I mean, I'll do country if you pop up, right? I'll do hey, I'll do some Arabian Nights. I don't care, right? So you want to be versatile. That way you can work with anyone because strange as this sounds, the people that have the money aren't always the ones that are most talented, but
mhm,
they're the ones that can really benefit from a producer and someone who can guide them, right? So how did I go out there? I made a lot of music.
mm,
I performed, and that's one of the differences between me and most new producers. I can actually play the instrument. So I've been invited to play at live shows. I've been invited to play at big churches. I've been invited to play at concerts for a cause. I've done nonprofit. I've done Black Lives Matter causes. I've done all kinds of causes. So when they hear you play, it's not uncommon for someone to come up to you at the end of it and go, wow, I really enjoyed the way you play. You say, oh, well, thank you. And you start the conversation and say, oh, yeah, you produce. Oh, I've been looking for a producer. That's how I get a lot of my clients. And then I'll make a song or do a track for someone. And then they tell another person. And the next thing you know it, I have a line of people that want to work with me. So um, it takes a lot of time. You can't start making beats tomorrow and expect to be popular by the end of the year. You're going to need to put in some time. Think about it like a basketball game or someone like LeBron. He's putting a lot of time to get to where he's at today. So you start that by making a lot of music. Make music that people could put in YouTube videos, make music that people can put in movies. If you know someone that wants to make a song and they're making a music video to go along with it, that always helps. Having a website helps.
mm,
Open up a SoundCloud account. Don't worry about how good the beat sounds, but worry about it being there because you never know. I can promise you, if you think about a popular song that came out that you know, I don't know if you all know the song. A song by John Mayer. The song is called Daughters.
mm,
Um, if you listen to the story about that song, John Mayer, someone brought the song to John Mayer. He didn't like the song. Well, the song ended up getting him a Grammy. The
mm,
point is, you just never know who's gonna like your record. So open up a SoundCloud account, share it with people, make your music your ringtone. When you post a video on TikTok, use your video. Give your video to artists to listen to. If you know any artist that's popular, has clout, form a business relationship or friendship with them, where you can say, "Hey, can you play my music?" And the next thing you know, you become a household name and you would stay always busy. Like I'm always busy right now as I speak. I have 7 or 8 projects in my computer that are
mm,
waiting for me. So it's a matter of really being out there and making a lot of music. So that's why I said at the very beginning, if you understand the emotion of the music, you know, then you can make music for what's going on. So for example, if you saw, you know, maybe the recent riot, you know, everyone's rioting, and you've watched a movie and you notice a riot sound, you could take that video that you see on the riot and you could put your music behind it and make a little disclaimer, this video is not mine, put it on YouTube, and someone's gonna listen to it and go, man, that song right there is fire. But what you're really doing is you're just conveying the emotion of the protesters or the rioters through your music, and that makes you important to what they're watching. So there becomes a connection between the video and between the sound. So getting your music out there is key, and there are tools out there. SoundCloud, and like I said, TikTok, Instagram. I'm not as popular on the social media platforms. That's because I'm just a bit old fashioned, but I have clients. I'm never out of clients. So I'm not really as hungry as someone who's just starting. Besides, I also run a university, so I'm not always available to do a lot of music, but music wise, I'm always busy around the year. I'm never bored without music.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, shout out to everybody in the chat right now. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Lamont Ellis. Shout out to DJ North. Shout out to Mr. Benevolent and Ramil Amir. I believe Ramil Amir stopped by. That's the OG over here. He also he makes beats as well. Okay. Now you guys got to make sure, if you guys don't know, if you don't go to the Beats website with Ramil, you need to check that out for sure. And I'll be leaving, as I already have in the description, a place where you can follow Nuugame. So basically, what you've said regarding the marketing, so you want to expand the top of your funnel. You said, hey, whether it's country music, Arabian Nights, whatever, whatever, whatever. Okay, but because prior to that, and I'm just saying that just for, so that people can follow the stream of the gems that are being dropped here, is first of all, okay, you want to be able to eat three times with mixing, mastering, and producing. You don't just want to
Correct.
be a beat maker, okay? Because there's a high demand for mixing and mastering, but there's without much supply. But the inverse is the case for just beat making. You can get beats everywhere, okay? And
Right.
then when it comes to how do you get people into your studio, first of all, so you got to have a professional presentation and all that kind of stuff once you get them in there, so that they know that you're serious. But how do you get them in there? You say open the top of your funnel, okay? You do any kind of song, you go any kind of place, go to churches where people can hear you, okay? Where
Right.
people can hear you. I know it's the Rona right now, but let's just give the examples of, like the churches and the coffee shops or the local charity or some kind of school event, okay? Your
Right.
local grade school has this particular organization and they do X, Y, or Z, or maybe they play, maybe they have a play, and you say, hey, how about I play the music for your play live, right? Rather
Right.
than you guys do the recording, and they'll greatly appreciate it. Their parents there, okay? Parents got money. You don't know what they do or why they may need somebody that offers those services. So basically, expand the top of your funnel and then put yourself out there. Now, in terms of speaking of the Rona and not being able to go to this grammar school or grade school or whatever, now you want to use TikTok, Instagram, and all these other things. I think that the idea that you mentioned about taking a particular scene or a meme, right, and then putting your music behind it. Okay, but you can take that, the popular Leonardo DiCaprio one where he's sipping something. I think it was from the Django movie,
And he's laughing.
and then he's laughing, and you have some kind of an animation behind it, and then you put some kind of happy music, your beat behind that, and you
Right.
put it out there. Right, memes are really a great marketing tool out there right now. Now, before we get into the because I